Hello and welcome to Cairns Catches Up. Tom Cairns, your host, where I speak to people within the motorsport world about their lives, their careers, the challenges they've had to face, and perhaps the advice they can share to those wanting to work within motorsport. Today's guest is someone who has recently been taken on as the new lead commentator of Formula 2 in 2025. He previously commentated on Formula 3, the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine, and other motorsport championships. It's a Mr. Chris McCarthy. Good evening, sir.
Hello, mate. How you doing? Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. We're getting into, as we record this, 8th of May, busy part of the season. But yeah, it's nice to have a weekend off this weekend. But after this, it gets a little bit busy. But good to be catching up with you, mate.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. And I'm really happy to have you on the show, Chris, because we've very much known each other for about 4 years or so. We knew each other through socials initially, and then we first met up in person for when I think you were doing some Porsche Super Cup commentary. I think as well as maybe Formula 2 as well in 2022, if I remember correctly. That was when we first met in person. And that was kind of the big step up from where you were from the likes of Formula Regional and all that. But you used to be racing in karts, didn't you? Which you could maybe take us through your journey through that before your time in commentary had arrived.
Yeah, no, I raced in karting many years ago now, which feels like it at least back in 2008 to 2012. Um, and it was, a really great time, really enjoyed it. I did just under 5 seasons overall racing in karting before it was brought to a very abrupt end when I was had an epileptic seizure at the track, which where I lost my race license for 5 years. But the time I did race was really good fun. I got to race some very talented drivers, people like Jake Hughes and Jack Aiken, and I was in amongst the paddock with the likes of Lando Norris, George Russell, Alex Albon. They were in the lower categories to me in terms of their age, but being amongst the paddock with them, you really saw superstars coming through. So I used to love being in the British Championship paddock, which I raced in, and those were really good times, kind of traveling. I was only in a small team, but being a part of that was such a great experience and traveling around the country and going to different events. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I wish I could get the chance to go back and do it again at some point. There's great Arrive and Drive championships, and which do a similar thing, and I got to commentate for some of those later down the line. And if I had the chance, I'd certainly go and do something like that in my spare time if I could. So yeah, but it was great fun doing it, and I got to win a couple of championships at club level, which was an amazing feeling. And doing the British Championships and I managed to finish in the top 10 in 2010, so I got a seeded number, and that felt really good at the time.
Yeah, I was going to ask because how challenging was your career in both karting and perhaps in racing cars before before you stopped? Because I know you've mentioned the 5 year or the gap you had from karting before you were able to take part in any form of racing. But how challenging was it for you in the karting days and in other championship races that you did?
Yeah, it was in terms of the karting I did, it was yeah, it was very competitive. When I did it, yeah, I remember going to my first race. I raced in the Rotax classes, and at that time they were very, very competitive. And it's karting is kind of it swings between the competitiveness of certainly in the UK anyway, between Rotax and IAME. And I do follow the British Championships, and I don't know quite which way it is at the moment. I think the Rotax classes maybe are the slightly more competitive, but certainly when I went, that IAME side didn't really exist. And when I talk Rotax and IAME, I talk the engine provider. But everyone raced in the Rotax classes, and when I went to my first, I did a first season in 2008 at club level, finishing fourth in the championship, and then we went to the British Championships and we had, 56 on the grid, I think, in the junior road test class I was racing in. And it was all about just trying to make the final. And I think I qualified 13th or something in my first race in the wet. Absolutely poured it down. So, yeah, that was, I mean, sitting amongst really talented drivers, who some of them still race in kind of sports cars today was a great feeling. And yeah, I always remember powering down to that first corner for the first pre-final, and that adrenaline rush was something that you just can't replace in motorsport. It was absolutely fantastic, and the journey we went on then throughout the season was brilliant. We had some real ups and downs, but yeah, so we had some great moments doing it. And as we got into the second season, we became a lot more competitive. The first season, it was just trying to be in the A final, be in the top 30 of the 56 drivers. But as we moved into the second season, we became a lot quicker, a lot more competitive, and we were challenging for podiums then, and we were fighting for 10th, the top 10 in the championship, and we came very close to the top five. So yeah, that was a really good season actually. I really enjoyed it.
Hmm. And around the time when you stopped karting because of the epileptic seizure you had, when was the moment when you felt you were ready to be taken on in commentary in karting and beyond? Because I think you went to do a degree somewhere in relation to like television, and you went and did some
Mm.
work over at a karting circuit at Wilton Mill in Northamptonshire. What just
Yeah.
maybe go into more detail in terms of what you did with that before your opportunity within commentary and karting had arrived?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it came to a very abrupt end, and I was told I couldn't race anymore. I had already got a place to go and do TV and film at college. Um, there was the way that all really came around was I tried to do the whole mechanicking thing whilst I was still racing. I didn't do very well in my A levels. I sadly failed those in trying to get into engineering. But the only one I did do well at was media studies. And whilst I was taking a year out, working in a kart shop. I realized that working on the spanners just weren't for me at all. I just didn't like getting my hands dirty. So so yeah, I decided that I would go and do TV and film at college, basically. And this was all happening whilst I was still racing. But yeah, eventually, the seizure happened a month before I was due to start college, and I started college quite a miserable person, as you can imagine. But when we arrived to college, we were set the task to do a live TV production for our end of year task, and that was how they were going to grade us at the end. So the idea just kind of came around really for me. I went back to see the people at the track the next month, and I realized then that that could be my last ever time at a racetrack, because there was no real reason for me to go back again. So on the way home, I just sort of pitched the idea to my dad as if he was the owners of Wilton Mill, the track I used to race at regularly. So I just sort of said to him, maybe I could go to Wilton Mill. I was a two-time champion there. I won a lot of races there that I never got the chance to watch back. And I said, why don't I take the cameras at my college and go and film the races there? And he thought it was a great idea. And I said I can use it for my coursework as well. And it would give those drivers a chance to watch their races back. That was kind of almost one of the main things. I'd gained some good friends at the track, and I thought, that'll give them a really nice thing. They can watch those races back. So yeah, I pitched the idea to the college and the racetrack, and they both were on board. And 3 months after I had that seizure, I was back with a small camera crew of classmates. One of them being my best friend who now works for a news channel. And yeah, we filmed the November 2012 Wilton Mill Kart Club meeting. Was the first ever race meeting they ever filmed there. Now, as you might know, it is live streamed every month, but that was the first one that ever got filmed, and yeah, they really loved it, and that was it. The next year, 2013, they said you need to do this every month now, so they paid us a small fee to do it.
Nice. I suppose that's the thing because if somewhere is lacking some form of filming and they're wanting, let's say, they want karting championships that are being held there every month being filmed, it's kind of down to you to sort of find that out for yourself and pitch to them. We'd be able to, would you be happy
Yeah.
for us to film this? And I think that's a very inspiring thing to do, is rather than expecting or waiting for an opportunity to happen, it's kind of finding that opportunity yourself and going with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the commentating for the first 5 rounds we did it had zero commentary, and it was only in the YouTube comments that people were leaving us that they were saying, can you put some commentary on this, please? It's great, we love it, but it needs commentary. And my dad actually was like, I was going to ask Henry Bode, who's like the legend. He's like the goat of karting commentary, and he's a good friend of mine. And I was going to ask him. I didn't know him at the time. I've gone on to get to know him really well. But he's in Wales, so that would have been quite difficult. So my dad just said, "Look, why don't you do it?" And so he kind of talked me into it. Really, I didn't even have any, any real reason to do it. But it just made the package better, and that every month we tried to make it better and better. Eventually, I think I dragged my whole class down there because they all wanted to use it for their end of year grade. So we were going through the whole class, but yeah, like I think I say to a lot of people who come to me for advice is, these kart tracks, there's many of them around. Yeah, often they don't know they need kind of a commentator or a live stream until you provide it to them once or put the idea in their head, and then they go, oh. And I think that's what Alpha Live, as an example, have been very successful as a company because they're providing live streams to tracks that have never really had it before, and now they can't go without it. So, um, and that's I think one of the reasons that you know the thing I did was successful was because once we did it once, they couldn't really go back again because they had 300 drivers every month who were kind of, that that didn't really want to see it go, and all it took was a small raise in the entry fee. I think that's all they did, and they were able to keep the live stream going. So yeah. So yeah, it was something that for us was great. And when my college finished in 2014, I went to the track. I couldn't get the free equipment to film anymore, but I said to the track, look, why don't you just have a live commentator on the PA system, and I'll do that instead. And again, they'd never had that before, but they said, all right. Great. I said, pay me the same money that you've paid me for the live stream, and I'll do it. So that's what we did.
Yeah, and
And yeah,
yeah,
they've had a live commentator ever since.
yeah. Well, that coincides when you were calling on races involving Ollie Berman, who I think was
Mm,
9 years old at the time. He was one of those competing in karting at the
yeah.
time as well. How was the transition then from doing the camera work into commentary? Because I'd imagine, how was it really intense, sort of commentating on karting, or was it a rather more relaxed environment for you to sort of gel into?
Very intense, very intense. I was quite lucky that I knew a lot of the drivers anyway, and I'd raced in it as well. So the first real race I did was Kart Masters 2014, which had Ollie Behrman in it. So that was the first one I did, and that was doing it. It was being filmed live on security cameras, but I really just did it by looking out the window. To be honest, I didn't really look at those. Um, and that was, Kartmaster's has been won by Lewis Hamilton. Um, but yeah, that was probably the first real race that I did in 2014, and it was very intense. I was lucky again that I knew most of the drivers just from being in the paddock, so I knew their names, and having raced in karting, you can kind of see when a move is coming uh, from the start of a straight, just in the driver's body language. PFI, where the meeting takes place, is quite well known from come off a bridge, and you've got a long straight then into a hairpin, and most of the time when they came off the bridge, you could kind of go, "Oh, there's going to be a move here." Just from small movements on the steering wheel, stuff like that. So, and that was stuff that. watching from the sidelines. I'm sure a lot of the people were with me anyway, but yeah, just racer's instinct. I think I'd say you could kind of see where a race was developing, and I think that that helps me a lot doing karting commentary. I was able to follow a race. And just notice drivers where others may struggle. I could just notice. I also got a really good lesson. Um, my first championship that I did was Formula Kart Stars, and they were all given the same race suit and the same livery. So yeah, that was quite tough. I did that with Henry, who I mentioned earlier. So the only way we could tell them apart was by their crash helmets and their gloves and their boots. And obviously their numbers, but their numbers used to get robbed off on lap one. A lot of them came with plain white crash helmets, so it was their gloves. Um,
Good
so
luck with
that
that.
taught me a lot. Yeah, that taught me a lot about how to tell drivers apart by, just literally looking at how they sit in this seat and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a very valuable lesson.
Yeah, and you commentated on the karting side of things all the way up to the Karting European Championships in 2018. 2019 was the moment where you moved to cars and commentating what is the now defunct Formula Renault Eurocup that's now synced with the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. That led to the moment when I personally first knew you through FRECA in 2021 when it gelled together with the Formula Renault Eurocup, and we had a lot of talent coming through. I think Oscar Piastri, thinking of it, was racing the Formula Renault Eurocup in 2019 before he
Yeah.
stepped up to Formula 3.
Yeah, the first meeting I did for them was Hockenheim 2019, and that was just before Oscar Piastri won the championship, and he was in a great battle with oh, it escapes me now, but he was. I remember he did a great move around the outside of two drivers at the kind of left-hander as they sort of come not in the stadium section, but kind of towards that part, and yeah. It was a very late call up for me to do that, but and it was all a bit of a whirlwind, that experience of me going to do that for the first time. But I absolutely loved it. It was an amazing experience. And yeah, and Oscar Piastri, was in this championship fight, and then they would go off to Abu Dhabi to finish the season. But yeah, that was an amazing first. That was my first real single seater race, I'd say. Um, and then they called me back to do it the next year, which was again really, really great. That year, though, I did have to do it from home because of COVID, and then it led to doing the full Formula Regional Championship in 2021, which was yeah, which was great, and still doing that to this day.
In 2020, of course, you were taken on by Loudspeaker to be part of their roster, and which did help you get more and more commentary opportunities, not just within FRECA, but I think there was like the cameo appearances within IndyCar, and I'm sure there was others as well along the way. But of course, 2022 was probably the bigger breakthrough that saw you land opportunities over in Biggin Hill. I think it was the Porsche Super Cup first, and then you were in for selected rounds of Formula 3 and the few occasions of F2 before getting that lead commentary opportunity full time.
Yeah, no, getting the F2 was that was really great for me. And doing that in 2022. I mean, working with the agency has been great. I met them in in 2020, 2020, I think it was. I first met Louise at the Autosport show. We were working together. Um, and I got introduced through a colleague of mine, Bryn Lucas, who's a really, really good presenter, and we were both doing an event for Motorsport Network. It was kind of live on stage and everything like that. Just before, obviously, the world kind of all went into a standstill. But yeah, there was kind of rumors that they were maybe starting this agency, and in May they signed me as I think the first person that they ever took on. It all things kind of happened very quickly. I obviously when COVID came around, I didn't think that I was going to be doing anything along with all other motorsport commentators and presenters. But they reached out to me in May then, and I got an offer to do through them. I got an offer to do a, a, a championship on BT Sports, which is obviously now TNT Sports, and it was like a weekly championship, which included all number of drivers. I think Lando Norris did it, but every week they brought in different drivers, and it went out live on TV. And I worked with Gemma from Loudspeaker on that, and that was an amazing opportunity with them. And since then, I've worked very closely with them and been able to get some other great opportunities. So yeah, I've been very grateful to work with them. But that was kind of where it all started. My journey with them, it kind of happened through COVID, really. So yeah, it was an amazing kind of thing how it all happened. I thought that my career was going to come to a complete standstill, but that was what happened first. And then I sat down with them and set my target of getting to F2 and F3. And we, yeah, that after we kind of got through the chaos of that BT Sports series. And then shortly after that, we managed to land the GT Open Championship, which of course came with Euro Formula, and that again, that was a big thanks to them. So yeah, that kind of set us on our way really, which was really kind of where things started in getting to Formula One.
COVID was obviously a very difficult period for pretty much everyone. Let's be honest, and
Yeah,
people were struggling for jobs. People were made on furlough as well. I personally was struggling to find jobs, and I'm sure perhaps as you've mentioned, you were fearing that your career was going to come to a standstill, but thankfully it didn't. But you look at a
mm,
weekend or maybe a weekly schedule of like having FRECA one week and then having F2 or F3 or Porsche Super Cup. Just take us through the preparation during the week. How do you exactly approach a race weekend, knowing that you're trying to learn about who the drivers are, who the teams are, team personnel who you could well be speaking to over the course of the race weekend? Just go through the sort of regime of yourself in how you get ready for a race weekend within a particular championship.
yeah. I mean, it takes a lot of preparation. I mean, first of all, I with this season in particular, it was something I approached completely differently to others because of doing F2, yeah, F3 Porsche, FRECA, Le Mans, and F1 Academy. It was like multiple championships. So I did. Thankfully, my winter was actually not that busy, which came as I think a benefit, and I spent weeks. Yeah, it was probably up to about 6 weeks, just preparing for the season for each one. So I was ready to quickly turn round notes, and that's preparing spreadsheets on each championship so that I can quickly edit those over the course of a week, and that's really how I approach it now. I'm able to go into those and I've got stats on F2, on F3, on Porsche, on F1 Academy, um, um, on all of them. And I even built some stuff for the 24-hour Le Mans over the winter, just so I'm ready to go. So um, yeah, so I kind of got everything ready so that when we hit a triple header like this, I'm about to do 5 weekends in a row. So it's just I can just quickly turn those over. And yeah, that's it. And also it's keeping up to date with everything that's going on. It's have a watch of IndyCar when that's on. Have a watch of WEC. Have a watch of um, watch of Formula E. Just I think that's also a good thing to do. So you're kind of across everything, and you just never know what might come up. So I think that's good to happen because you never know what drivers might come in. So yeah, I think that's also a good thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And you've been through some challenging moments as well. I mean, I remember 2 years ago, I think it was the Austrian Grand Prix weekend, you were over in Biggin Hill to commentate on Formula 3 and the Porsche Super Cup. We learned over in Spa, we lost the 2021 Spanish Formula 4 champion Dilano Fantoff. That was a
Yeah.
big that must have hit you quite hard because I'm sure you'll have known Delano quite well. But just when you learn these events as a commentator, when you're commentating on many big championships. What is the sort of thought process in your mind that if such an incident like that happens, how do you prepare for it?
Yeah, I mean, that was very tragic. I was fortunate enough not to be there. I mean, George Morgan was the one commentating on that, and fortunately they didn't know. I think that was that was good, but even so, it was a tragic event, and I think they all that was something that incredibly difficult for them to deal with at the circuit. And like I said, George was the one that was there, and I felt really horrible for all of them that were at the track. I was at Biggin Hill, like you said, learnt the news, and yeah, terrible news to know. I'd known Dilano since karting. Um, I remember him from those days racing. He used to race at Forza Racing. He was teammates with Isaac Hadjar, actually, back then. And I used to remember he was very cheeky in his interviews on the grid sometimes. He was a great character. I kind of said it how it was. Yeah, used to very, very, very talented racer. Showed that in his F4 days and in his FRECA days, and yeah, I just remember finding out about it. I was one of the first to actually, as one of the first to find out. And I remember being sat in the gallery with the team in F1 and kind of telling the guys there, and everything just happened really quickly. And yeah, it's hard to process it when something like that happens. I think um, I always think back to Alex. He dealt with it very well when he was thrown. Sadly, very tragic events that he's had to deal with. But I think there's no way you can deal with it really. It's if you find yourself in that situation, all you can do is ultimately you are just going with you are sadly just delivering the news that comes to you in your ear. If there is there is no preparation you can do for those circumstances. So yeah, I find that's the only way you can do it. If you have an incident that happens in front of you, ultimately the next thing you can do is just keep going with what comes through to your ear, and you just hope and pray that um, it's never going to be the serious incidents that that you hope that you pray don't happen. So yeah, but it's almost like being you're almost just delivering news at that point. So yeah, there's no way to prepare for it, and you just hope that from everyone's point of view that you never have to be put in that situation.
You've commentated on either Formula 3 or Formula 2 for a few years now, Chris. You've done selected rounds of both before doing the lead commentary duties of F2 for this season. Alex Jakes had been doing it for 10 years before he stood down from that. What have been the best commentary moments you've had, maybe across all the championships you've done? I mean, we'll go on to the F1 Kids stuff in a moment because you've done some stuff in relation to that with the likes of Scarlett, Kai, and all that. But what have been the
Mm.
commentary standout moments for you that you think I was, I feel really great that I nailed that commentary moment?
Um, oh, I mean, in terms of the races that really stand out for me that I remember doing. I mean, there's been so many. I mean, the one that stands out is obviously the F3 season finale. And I thought, yeah, me and working with Alex Brundle is a real treat, to be honest. He's such a professional in what he does. I feel very privileged to be alongside him. And this is a bit of a sidestep to your question, but when I did get to F1, I almost felt like I started learning all over again in terms of commentating. I did feel very prepared for stepping into that role, but at the same time, being alongside him, uh, I felt like, okay, there's still a lot I have to learn here, and he has very much helped me get ready for everything that I've had to learn. So, just because of how much professional and how educated he is in his role. So, but yeah, one thing that we always tend to do is when we finish is analyze, right, how was that? What could we have done better? And that was probably one of the first times we both took the headphones off and went, that was really, we couldn't have done anything better there. So yeah, that was probably one of the biggest highs I've ever had in terms of commentating, was calling Leonardo Fornaroli as champion in Formula 3, and Italian champion in front of his home crowd. Um, yeah, and I did have a feeling as well that he was going to dedicate that to Luca Persiani, and I remember saying to Alex, I think he's going to dedicate this to Luca Persiani, and there was, I don't know, there was, when he did do it as he jumped out the car, there was just it was, having known Leo for so long as well, and having known that story, it was, yeah, it was quite an emotional moment actually to see that.
Formula 2 this season, then. The first full season of you commentating the Light Championship. Who's your tip to become champion? Now, at the time of recording, this is just before the round of Imola that Formula 2 will be contested.
Yeah.
Richard Verschoor is the current championship leader. But who's your tip for the title this year, Chris?
No idea. It's we've had five winners in five races, three pole sitters in three rounds from three different teams. I do not think there's going to be a single driver that runs away with it this year, and I don't think it's going to be a head-to-head battle for the championship either. Um, yeah, genuinely, I have no idea who's going to win it. I thought pre-season that it would be Arvid Lindblad, but he looks like he might need a season to get settled in. That said, he has won a race, but maybe I don't know if this will be his year. It could be next year. Um, it's incredibly difficult to call. Richard Verschoor, are we going to get Felipe Drugovich in him with MP Motorsport? I know he went up to Zach Brown after the feature race and pitched to him like, "Take me on." Um, But yeah, the Premas and ARTs aren't performing, so I don't know. It's actually the answer. I'm kind of avoiding the question. Um, I think if I had to really go for an answer, I think it will be a Campos racing driver. So we've got Pepe Marti or Arvid Lindblad, and I think Campos Racing are going to win the championship. So yeah. I don't know. I think one of them are going to win it. It's just about which one. So
Yeah,
I don't, but I don't think that's a satisfactory answer, is it?
that, that's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm undecided
Yeah,
who I think is going to become Formula 2 Drivers' Champion. It really honestly could be anyone. Bearing in mind, last year
yeah,
we had 18 different race winners, which was very, very,
yeah,
very, very absurd. When you, from 28 races, we had 18 different winners in Formula 2. But yeah,
yeah.
it's difficult for me to call who I think could end up
I
becoming
mean,
champion this year.
I'm looking at the title again. I mean, Luke Browning, could it be him? Could it be? Yeah, Leo Fornaroli, could he do the back to back? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'll go with Pepe Marti, and I'll change it up. I think Campos Racing are going to do it, and I think Arvid will have his season building up, and I think Pepe Marti will do it. There we go. He did very well in F3, so let's go. I'm going to switch it. I went Arvid before, but I think Pepe Marti will win for Campos, and they will finally get their title.
F1 Kids is a new thing that started, Chris, in 2023. I think Sky kick-started that. It was the Hungarian Grand Prix
Y-
weekend where the likes of Scarlett, Braden, and Zach. Kai
Yeah,
was later involved in that, I think the following year. But I think when
yeah,
Formula One started doing that in 2024, it was either you or Izzy that took it in turns, wasn't it? To work with
yeah.
them. But just maybe describe your experience with that and what it's like to work with the likes of Scarlett, Braden, and Zach, who clearly know their Formula One very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing opportunity. Obviously, it launched with Sky at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and Harry Benjamin did the first race with them doing that, and um, it was then got taken over obviously by F1 TV sort of. It was, I think it was a combined effort between Sky and F1 the first time, and then F1 TV kind of took the reins of it from there, so to speak, and they brought it back for the Singapore Grand Prix that season, and then Abu Dhabi as well. And they asked me to commentate it, which was or also host it, so to speak. The kids do most of the commentating, and yeah, I mean, it was an amazing opportunity. It was my first opportunity to ever really be involved with a Formula One race. I'd done some F2 and some F3 and some Porsche, and that was my first real call up to doing Formula One, and it was a dream come true for me. It was going to go out live on Sky F1 via the red button, and on another channel as well. I think it was on Sky Mixed or something like that. And so yeah, it was great. And I remember seeing the press release that they put out to say that I was the commentator for it, which was really cool. And I spoke to Harry about it, and he gave me a bit of like some we we kind of spoke so he could tell me a little bit about how it went down in Hungary. So yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. You know, it was a new project. Um, you have to prepare very differently when you're commentating for a kids program. That was the first thing that I thought about was, you know, we're commentating for, you know, F1 for children. So the normal preparation process kind of went out the window because I'm not going to be giving kind of stats. I'm going to be giving more fun facts. So yeah, my preparation, the challenge of preparing that was actually really good fun, um, and trying to make it more of a show than a play-by-play commentary was a really fun challenge actually. And I worked very closely with the producers to give my own input into that. But I remember getting to the race on the day that when we did it. You know, Scarlett, Zach, and Braden came in, and they were incredibly professional. You know, Scarlett and Braden had done their own show on Sky Sports, and Zach is someone I know from karting. He's a very talented driver. You know, he's up there in terms of, you know, junior Rotax drivers. Races for a really good team called Strawberry Racing, and he does a lot of. He's very confident in front of camera. Yeah, he's got a good social media presence as well. So yeah, I remember when they came in to do the race, I went in a little bit early into the. We were going to start the show in the, you know, in the studio they have at F1, and I went in there early to get myself set up and do some sound checks. I was really nervous. Uh, as you can imagine, doing my first F1 race, you know, pacing around the room, and I thought, right, you know, the chaperone that was with them sort of said, all right, they're going to come in now, and I sort of thought, well, I have to be the adult in the room, got no choice, so I have to be not nervous, so they're not nervous, and so I pretend, you know, tried to pretend I wasn't nervous, but when they came in, they were not nervous at all. They came in, and it was like the studio was their living room, and they all just sat down and went, "Well, all right, we'll be here, be here." They were almost, it's like they were almost arguing over which chair they were going to sit on, and that was their only problem. And they all sat down. The lights, cameras did not affect them at all, and they were complete professionals. And it went really smoothly, and you know, it was so much fun. It was a completely different thing to anything I'd ever done. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed, you know, debriefing with the team after to say, how can we make this better? How can we make it more fun? And yeah, you know, I'm so glad I was part of it, I have to say.
Lovely to see the likes of Scarlett, Braden, Zach, and of course Kai getting involved in
Yeah,
that as well. That was, I think, for them, it was a breathtaking opportunity, and walking into an environment where they think, "Blimey, are we really doing this?" That type of
yeah.
thing. Yeah, imagine what they must have been feeling going into that.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember they came in. You know, from being at F1, you know, week in, it's a very overwhelming experience when you come into the Biggin Hill. You know, Pierce Pryor, a good friend of mine, commentated F2 and F3 with me recently for the first time, and you know, before he came. to do the Bahrain race. I said, look, it's going to be like walking into NASA. It's very overwhelming. There's a lot of screens everywhere, but and the only problem you'll have is trying to find where the toilet is. And you have to scan your pass about 10 times before you can get everywhere. It's kind of one of those buildings, as you know, and if you lose your pass, always have your phone with you just in case, because it's a very big building. Um, so yeah, and so once they kind of got used to that, I think they were just in love with the place. And I just remember that was such a good weekend because they couldn't believe that they were there. They couldn't believe they were part of it. Their parents were probably even more excited than they were. And they were there for 2 days as well. So they came in on the Saturday and we just did a rehearsal. So there was like, we weren't being recorded and we just had complete fun doing that. And we were in the commentary box for that as well because Alex Jakes and the team, they were off in Singapore. So we used like what is usually Alex Jakes and Julian Palmer's commentary box, which is quite vast, as people will know from watching the F1 TV stream. It's, is enough to sit about 6 people on that desk, and it's so many screens, more than you can, even between four of us, we can't look at all of them. So yeah, and then we all, with their parents, we all kind of went back to the hotel afterwards, and even their parents, I was chatting to them afterwards, and they just couldn't believe that they were there. So I think they all saw the opportunity that they were involved with, and they could see what was happening. They could see that they were involved in this opportunity working with F1 and could see that it was amazing to be part of and the excitement building around it. And then when we did the race and it went as well as it did, and the reaction we got from it and then doing it again was great. But I have to say, yeah, one, being on that journey with them was a privilege, and two, uh, they worked very hard at delivering feedback and then trying to make the show better. And they were challenged by the team, help us make this better. And I've got to say, they were complete professionals at doing that. And they've all got very long careers ahead of them in broadcasting. I tell you that they were so great to work with, and I hope I get the chance to work with them again someday because
Yeah,
I loved doing it, and I'm sure we'll see them, continue to see them in the building, and see them back in not in F1 Kids at some point, but doing other stuff because they're so great to work with.
yeah, I've seen that Scarlett's been involved in other stuff as well, I think for Sky. And I mean, she does other content creation stuff as well. And of course,
Yeah.
Braden's done a lot of presenting stuff, and I'm sure Zach has done as well as racing in karting. And Kai, I've known Kai for a number of years already. I think he's picked up some rewards as been like young presenter or something like that years ago. I can't remember the exact name of the rewards, but Kai is
It was
another one
through
of those.
BBC.
Yeah, it's through
Yeah,
BBC,
it's through
wasn't it? Yeah,
BBC Radio.
yeah. He's another one of those that has got a sensational future ahead of him. And all four of them, as well as you and
Yeah.
Izzy and all that, they've all got bright futures.
Yeah, I've got to say, and it almost you have to keep reminding yourself of the age they are and the confidence they have at that age. You almost go, wow, I mean, if they're doing that at that age, and I can certainly do it. And it almost gave me more confidence as a presenter, commentator working with them. So yeah, it was great, and the feedback we got from the show, that I personally got and that I saw was so good. So I wish, Izzy, you're taking it over as well. She's so great, and I think she's perfect for the job as well. So I have to say, I think she's done so great with it already. And I think she's going to do really good with it, going forwards. So yeah, I'm looking forward to keeping watching it as it goes forward.
Moving on from F1 Kids, this purple sectors or setting purple sectors, however you want to call it, has been going around, I think, since last year because there was an event, a charity event over at Simply Race in Milton Keynes, Chris, where we had
Yeah.
teams of which the captain is a recognizable name within the motorsport world. Obviously, Harold Benjamin was there, Colin Turkington was there, Isaac Hadjar was there, Sacco Sullivan was there, Christian Mansell was there. A whole bunch of names were there, and of course, Alpha Live were there to do all the production stuff. You were there with Izzy Browning and all that. Just maybe talk us through what is this Purple Sectors thing, because I know it's part of supporting Young Epilepsy. But maybe just go through the base of it and what it's all about.
Yeah, so we're officially called Purple Sectors now. Well, obviously we changed our name this year to clear that one up, but yeah, but essentially it's an idea I came up with at on a plane going to a FRECA race in Hockenheim in 2023, and I was bringing a charity t-shirt with me for the first time. I was going to kind of wear in public that I had epilepsy, and I'd never done it before. And I was actually too scared to wear the t-shirt first, and then did. And after that, I came up with an idea like, look, we should, more should be getting done about epilepsy in motorsport. So I went to the Young Epilepsy charity and took to them this idea. That we should do a sim racing event, and uh, that's sort of where it started, really. I pitched them the idea, and that's we eventually led to the event that happened. So I worked with Young Epilepsy Charity last year. We put on a 2-hour sim race at Milton Keynes. We had 15 teams, led by team captains, which included the likes of, as you mentioned, Isaac Hadjar, Zach O'Sullivan, Christian Mansell, Colin Turkington. One of the teams, however, included a group of individuals that are on Young Epilepsy's Youth Voice Network. So they are individuals that are all diagnosed with epilepsy, like myself. So they cannot, unfortunately, go and race racing cars on a circuit. They can't get a racing license or a driver's license. But for that night, we gave them a chance to go head to head against Isaac Hadjar, um, and Colin Turkington and Jimmy Broadbent and so on. And they raced in their own team. They were team captains by Will Dendy, and they were racing drivers along with everyone else in the room. So yeah, it was great. We raised £18,000, and we live streamed the event, which was great. And we had a lot of people that were really really great with us. So that was last year, but this year now I'm working with Jenny Gow, who's obviously BBC F1's presenter, and Neil Cole, who you might have seen hosted the FIA Awards last year. And the three of us have our own connections to epilepsy. Jenny's daughter has epilepsy, and Neil has his own connection to it in another way. And the three of us together want to make the event even bigger this year. So we're going to be bringing it back in 2025 for a second event. Um, it's going to be a similar format in terms of teams racing. We're going to again have our own team from the Youth Voice Network. However, this year, which some people may have seen that we've been sort of raving about at Silverstone, we took 5 young people to Silverstone, British GT, and we gave them an insight into different areas of motorsport. And those 5 people are going to help us broadcast the live stream of Purple Sectors 2. So we're going to be working with them throughout the year. We're going to train them up. And when we get to Purple Sectors 2 in November, they're going to help broadcast the event.
So
So
is this going to be at the same venue as like it was last year with the same concept of it?
that's to be announced in terms of the venue. We haven't announced a date or a venue yet. And in terms of the concept, there might be some changes. But again, it's sort of all to be announced, really. So yeah, but the main concept change is that last year we just had members of the Youth Voice Network, who, if you're suffering with epilepsy, it's worth being part of that. Um, we just had some of those members racing in the event. Now they're going to be racing and contributing to it in terms of the workforce. So, and from that, we hope that they can go and put something on their CV, and go and send some emails to people in motorsport and say that they delivered a live broadcast, and get a foot in the door, so to speak.
That's remarkable, Chris, because these who have not been able to race or even drive on the road because of their epilepsy, for them to be given the opportunity to get some work experience under the belt, it's fantastic to see, and I'm absolutely all for that, and I really wish they come away with it with something very valuable from that will help them in their long-term futures.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, it's again, it's unfortunately, with having this, this disability, we can't race, but or drive. That's a hindrance. But yeah, and it does put people off motorsport. We've had people who we've been working with in a very short space of time, who are, fully put off the idea of even working in motorsport. Some of those were at our event last year racing, and we've already seen a turn in their mindset that they've gone from having they're they've had literally thought that the possibility of them working in motorsport has been zero to the point where they wouldn't even consider it. So now that it's at the end of this year when they've done Purple Sectors 2, it's going to become their full mission to give it a go. We're not promising any jobs out of it, but at least they're going to try and give it a go, which is all we're motivating people to try and do.
Well, I am very much looking forward to this Purple Sectors 2 event in November, and wherever it is, providing it's in the UK.
Yeah, it will
Yeah,
be in there.
it will be in the UK. Um,
Yeah.
I will make sure I do turn up to that because I really enjoyed going to
Yeah.
it last year when I turned up at MK, and yeah, it was a fun night for everyone, and we raised so much money, thousands of pounds towards young epilepsy, and I think they've done a cracking job in well, Simpler Race have done a fine job in allowing this sim racing event to happen. It'd be lovely if they could do it again at some point.
Yeah, certainly. No, thank you. No, we encourage people to come, even if it's just, you know, come along to have a watch. That's something we want to do and get involved. If even if you can't compete, come along and get involved. And we had an F1 driver there last year, so you know, who knows, we might have the same again this year. So um, yeah, that
Fingers
was
crossed.
yeah,
Fingers.
that's something we do. And yeah, and now having Jenny and Neil, I think it makes the event extra exciting.
On to you then, Chris. What does the future hold for you? Because you now F2's lead commentator. You've done some F1 stuff as well for like F1 Kids. But what are the next 5 to 10 years going to be in store
Oof,
for you?
oof. Well, that's so I put those on my wall. Funnily enough, those goals. Next 5 to 10 years. What do they say? To be honest, yeah. I mean, getting Formula 2 for me was a massive dream come true. It was something I wanted to do ever since I started all of this. Um, Will Buxton was a huge idol for me, and then Alex Chase, became someone I really looked up to and has been a massive help for me. So I certainly, in the short term, I see this being something I just want to get better at doing in terms of commentating Formula 2 and Formula 3. And I want to do it a great service over the next few years. And I don't really plan on bringing that to an end anytime soon. So yeah, the plan is to kind of do the work those both of those guys did. But certainly in the long term, beyond the years that I'm going to plan to spend doing Formula 2 and Formula 3. The ultimate goal is to do Formula 1. And, those seats are few and far, but, there's only a limited amount of spots, and all the guys in those are doing an amazing job. But ultimately, the goal is to do it. Great job in F2 and F3, so I'm ready for the opportunity should it come up. And yeah, it's to do Formula One. I've never been in a position before where I've said to myself, I can get F1, but I feel I can say with confidence, maybe I have a good chance now. Still, I still know that there's a lot of good people out there doing a lot of good stuff, and ultimately, yeah, I'm not going to take my foot off the gas. So I need to do Formula Two a great service to even stand any kind of chance to get Formula One, and be ready for it. If it was to come up. So, but yeah, that's the ultimate goal. I mean, doing pre-season testing for me gave me a small insight as to what it could be like, and yeah, I want to get that opportunity again. But away from that, the Olympics. I got to see Paris last year, and I want to do more. So yeah, I want to do LA and Milan next year.
The World Endurance Championship, 24 Hours of Le Mans. Are you expected to do that again this year and for future years?
Yeah, so I'll be back again doing the circuit comms this year, and again, that's something that I do not plan to stop anytime soon. I mean, doing the circuit commentary, the guy I took over from had been doing it since 1985. Um, so when I got that opportunity, I'm only the third person to take the role. It was a massive privilege, and yeah, for me, I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I loved doing the circuit comms for the fans at that are around. Um, I brought my dad last year to Le Mans. It cost me a few quid, but it was well worth every single penny. And that was the first time he heard me commentate since on a PA system. First time he heard me commentate since about 2017, I think. So that was amazing doing that. And again, that's something I look to keep doing throughout the next few years because Le Mans is in a very exciting position now with all the manufacturers coming in. So yeah, I'd love to be there to keep doing it as it gets even more exciting.
A phenomenal event lined up for the 24 Hours of Le Mans that is set to be staged on the 14th to the 15th of June, with it being a
Yeah,
24-hour event. Um,
yeah, it's going to be great.
it's going to be great indeed. What advice could you give then, Chris, to those wanting to work within motorsports? Maybe not just within media or journalism, but for those wanting to be involved within a, I don't know, like a Formula One team or even a sports car team or a club car championship team, um, working as a mechanic or as an engineer or just anything miscellaneous. What advice could you give to those wanting to work within motorsport?
Oh, I mean, I'll start with broadcasting, I guess. I think I'm best equipped maybe to give advice there. I mean, in terms of working motorsport in general, as long as you have a passion for the sport and you're willing and you're dedicated to it, then then you've got a chance. And what I mean by that is if you are passionate about about motorsport, that will come across naturally. And then in terms of dedication, if you're willing to give up your free time to go and make the teas and go and do a few jobs for free, kind of thing, then and dedicated to do work for free in terms of maybe doing your own content creation, your own blogs that maybe people aren't necessarily hooked onto at first, but that's what I mean by, dedication. Um, I did that with my college project that we didn't really get that many views to start with, and we actually never really ever did. But um, you know, we found out they were watching it in their boardroom meetings at EasyJet, which was quite cool. But yeah, it eventually led to the next job and then the next job. So that's what I mean by that. So yeah, as long as you have dedication, passion will come across naturally. You've got a chance at anything, and that's a base level thing you need to have. But in terms of, commentary, one of the main things I always say is you've got to go out there and create your first opportunity somehow. And that can be by doing your own commentary on something that doesn't even exist, by commentating on old videos, watch-alongs, stuff like that. Um, Going to kart tracks around and going, you know, you don't have a commentator, but I'm going to give you one, and I'll do it for free to start with and see if you like it. Um, or those are the good things to start, and networking, going to, going to see commentators and going, can I just be this, the extra commentator for the day, and I'll do it for free. So yeah, I think these are the opportunities. These are the things you need to do to start building a network of contacts and also building experience, which you can then take forward. You need to show that to get started in the industry, and it will happen from there. And also understand that whatever you do, it's not going to happen overnight. It takes years of hard work. It might do for some people, but certainly for most, it doesn't happen overnight. And when it doesn't happen overnight, don't give up. That's all I'll say. Just keep going. And as long as you do that at the same pace, your time will eventually come.
Chris, it's been super to chat with you today. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we'll speak to each
You're
other soon
welcome.
on Cairns Catches Up. And the best of luck with your commentary duties in Formula 2 in 2025.
Thank you very much, and I look forward to listening to more episodes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.